Here beside me is the new sedan from Kia, the K4 in the flagship GT line grade. Not only is its design interesting, but it now replaces the popular Cerato for our market. And eventually there is going to be a hatchback sibling to compete against the Toyota Corolla. But in this review, we're going to see what this sedan offers and whether or not it's a good fit for urban dwellers, so stay watching. The new K4 is offered in 4 grade levels and you can add a safety pack to the base model. The model on test for this review is the flagship variant and it has a sharp before on-roads cost sitting just shy of $43,000. That positions it right in the middle of its small sedan rivals, the Hyundai i30 N-Line Premium and the Mazda3 Sedan. What the K4 GT line has going for it over some of its rivals is a heavy-hitting modern technology equipment list, which includes things like dual 12.3-inch displays, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, upgraded USB-C ports, as well as built-in satellite navigation. Along with all of that modern technology, there are some other goodies as well, like a sunroof, two-tone synthetic leather upholstery, heated and ventilated front seats, as well as a heated steering wheel. But the full specs are in my detailed written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. I've got to admit, I wasn't fully convinced on the design of this new sedan when I first saw it, because from certain angles, it just looks a little bit out of sorts. But the more time I spend with it, the more I appreciate its sharp angles and the sporty rear design. I also really like the Fang-like LED light design that's at the front and the rear, because it looks pretty cool. The cabin looks slick with the two-tone upholstery, lots of soft touch points throughout the car, and the beautiful display panels really take center stage on the dashboard. There are some heavy use of plastic still, but you don't tend to focus on them because of everything else. Compared to its rivals, the K4 feels quite big for the class, and that translates to a cabin space that feels adult-friendly in both rows, for both headroom and legroom. It does feel like you're getting your daily squats in though, getting in and out of this car because of the low 140mm ground clearance. The wide front seats offer lots of comfort with their thick padding, and the driver's side is electric. That offers lots of adjustments. It is surprising for a top model grade though that the passenger side isn't powered. Storage up front is really good for the class. You get a glove box and middle console. The center console though has retractable cup holders which opens it up further, and I like that you get a dedicated phone cradle. Unlike some of the new cars that are hitting our market, the K4 hasn't done away with all of its buttons and dials, which is great for those who don't like to rely on a screen for everything. And the traditional element of a physical gear shifter also adds to the charm as well. The 12.3-inch touchscreen multimedia system looks really clear with its graphics and is simple to operate because it's easy to understand layout. I really like that it's got the built-in sat-nav and wireless Apple CarPlay. Both were simple to use. And like I mentioned before, it does have wireless Android Auto for those users too. There's lots of comfort on offer in this back row, and I'm 168 centimeters tall. I have heaps of room back here behind my driving position. The width of the seat does remind you though that it is a small sedan, so 2 adults are going to be the most comfortable back here. Middle seaters won't find a lot of comfort on even shorter journeys. This row has ISOFIX child seat mounts and 3 top tether points, but again, because of the width of the seat, 2 seats are going to fit best. A word of warning to any parents out there, when I install my big booster seat back here, it does completely wipe out the rear view vision behind it. Access to this row is mostly good. Again, you do a few squats getting in and out, but it's really the doors themselves that are the most annoying because you get a big wing that extends out from the door handle, and it's caught my hip a few times when I've gone to close the door. Other than that, the amenities and storage are pretty good for the class. You get 2 mat pockets, 2 directional air vents, and 2 USB-C ports, as well as a total of 4 drink holders, a little storage cubby underneath the vents, and a fold-down armrest. While it's not unexpected for the class, for a top model grade, I would have expected a few extra features like climate control, but still pretty comfy. The boot space of this sedan is really good for the class at 508 litres. The boot aperture is a little bit narrow though, so you might have to get a bit clever when you fit in bigger gear. And the boot is so deep, I had to climb back in there to get things that rolled to the back. But other than that, it's quite functional. You get a temporary spare tyre underneath the floor, and while you don't get a powered tailgate in this model, the lid's not heavy to operate. What I like about it though is that you get a proximity opening feature. So if you approach the rear and stay near it with the key fob on your person, the boot lid automatically pops open, which I really appreciated on my grocery run this week. The flagship variant is front-wheel drive and has a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder turbo-petrol engine that produces up to 142 kilowatts of power and 265 newton-meters of torque, which makes this have a far more powerful presence than its non-turbo siblings. However, while the power is adequate for this not to feel underpowered, there are times where it sounds like the engine's working pretty hard. And the 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission can act a bit flustered as it moves through the lower gears, especially when you're accelerating quickly. With an official combined fuel cycle usage figure of 6.7 litres per 100 kilometres and a fuel tank size of 47 litres, you should see a theoretical driving range of around 701 kilometres in this vehicle, which isn't as massive as some of its rivals. It does sit about 80 kilometres less than some of its rivals, but it's still sufficient for people who like to do the odd road trip. My real world on test usage figure for this car has actually popped out at 9.2 litres. That's after doing mostly urban trips as well, with one long drive mixed in there. That's based on the fuel pump usage and the kilometres travelled. And while I'm not terribly surprised at that figure, it's not as good as what I would have expected it to be. Like I mentioned, the power is more than adequate to move this around, and it does feel responsive enough in the city. You do have to be a little bit aggressive when you're heading up hills to keep your speed consistent, and it's not always quick off the mark. You notice it most when you enter a roundabout or you have to cross traffic, so just allow a few extra car lengths. The steering and suspension are sport stiff. That makes this feel, like I said, nimble and quite sure-footed when you have to do turns or quick lane changes, which is great. However, you do feel and hear every bump in this. The on-road comfort though is still pretty good, and you don't really feel battered by the bumps in the road. However, the road noise really creeps up in this. You do notice it around the city as well, but it's most noticeable at higher speeds, and you do have to raise your voice to chat to people in the back. This sedan is super easy to park because it has a clean 10.7 meter turning circle, which makes this your new best friend in the city or a tight car park. I am surprised for a top model grade that you don't get a 360-degree view camera system in this. The reversing camera you do get is pretty clear though, and you get front and rear parking sensors, but it is disappointing that you miss out on that 360 system. The Kia K4 has just been launched, so it hasn't been tested with ANCAP yet and is thus unrated. But Kia is hustling to get it tested so it can join in on its strong 5-star performance record. As you would expect for a top grade model, this has all the bells and whistles when it comes to safety equipment, including emergency call functionality, rear occupant alert, and safe exit warning and 7 airbags, so it's pretty top notch. Lately, Kia have become well known for some of the annoying sound alerts that happen inside the vehicle. And while this model has them too, you can turn off the most annoying one, which is the traffic sign recognition, by holding down the mute button on the steering wheel, so it makes it far more pleasant to drive. But the full safety specs are in my detailed written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. The K4 GT line is offered with Kia's 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is a pretty good term for the class. You get a 7-year cap price servicing program for a flat $3,877, which is a little bit more expensive than some of its rivals. Servicing intervals could get a little bit annoying if you put a lot of Ks on your car every year, because they're spaced at every 12 months or 10,000 kilometres, whichever occurs first. The new Kia K4 GT line has a lot to offer. Great features, an interesting design, and a pleasant driving experience, but it's not without its quirks. And a more powerful engine would have improved its long-term investment for me, simply because I do so many Ks every year. But it still ticks all the boxes to make it a friendly urban dweller, and that's why it gets the score that's on your screen now. But if you're after more details, check out my full written review at carsguide.com.au. I'll see you next week.